start playing with contrast
Okay.
and brightness, etc.
Okay. So the so first, many of us, after we shoot it either on our cell phone and everything, okay. Second, we edit, we process them, and then we put it on our social media to get those wows and that TFS. For many years, actually, I wasn't knowing the full form of TFS, around 2 decades back, when we have a small online community of photographers. If somebody used to put a comment there, TFS, or really for some years, I was not knowing that it's thanks for sharing, I'm old kind of people, not the one with the virtual word today. But after that, what we do, we keep it archiving it, copy it on a different storage, hard drives, cloud, pen drive, so we don't lose it. Other than this, we hardly do anything. We either share it on a social media, either we copy on different storage drives, or we do nothing. But photographs have power to incite debate, dialogue, and even making a change in the whatever sphere you are into. It's all about understanding what happens when release into a society, how different people, different group engage with that particular photograph, and how do they communicate around that particular photograph. Because photograph is one thing, you don't need to read 10 pages, 20 pages to understand, but it has a story. So one So I just want to share you how I started photography. Basically, I started photography as a necessity. Around 1990s, when I finished my post-graduation, my subject was applied biology, and I was studying snakes. And there was hardly much better pictures of snakes I could find all around, and some of the people had those pictures, but they were not able to, share them with everybody or send it to me. So I took a camera just to photograph common snakes around us, so I can use them for educating and awareness purpose with the people. So with my pictures, I did this campaign for snake conservation in 90s a lot. I used to run a center called Reptile Rescue and Study Center many years back. So where we used to do these campaigns for snake awareness. So all the pictures I started taking during those time was as a necessity to take a pictures of snakes, because I wanted to use them for my education, awareness, and studies of snakes. That time, that's how it started. But over the years, that photography necessity has kind of become a passion, and then I worked into a lot of other photography fields, not only snakes. Many ways for conservation. The aim is to inspire action. You can use them for outreach awareness program. You can use them for observing and monitoring a particular species behavior or any kind of action into nature. You can use them for social impacting through exhibitions and through talks. You can use them for researching wildlife and species. You can always use them for documentation and publications. As a citizen science is recording biodiversity and nature all around you. So you can also use your photography skills to for citizen science to document data around you, document checklists, species found around you. Like if you are staying in a society with a good garden, what kind of birds you are finding around, or what kind of insects you get there. If you can photograph them and document them, that becomes a citizen science. And most of us, we do major thing about appreciating beauty. That is to create through our pictures empathy towards a natural world. See, today everybody, our life itself has become a burden on nature. So if you show that beauty of nature, probably people will think about saving that beauty instead of beautiful pictures more than just getting a credit to you, oh, how beautiful pictures this photographer takes. But it's about how beautiful nature can be and what an impact your photographs can have on a society. to inspire or create some kind of activity where society helps or supports to conserve that nature. That's what matters when you take a picture. Because sometimes we only look at single dimensional view. That photograph is what it is. Like you look at the photograph as a composition, as a different photography rules, as a technically whether it's perfect or not. But that is only one dimension of a photograph. But the photograph, how can we use that photograph for more active and deliberate conservation or any awareness and action? That is the other dimension where a photograph can go. Where how beautiful your composition is doesn't matter, but what message that photograph gives to the community, it also matters a lot. So there are two dimensions of any photography. One is about photograph itself. What are the different composition rules, technically, whether it's perfect or not, what kind of story you are telling to the viewers. But the second aspect is whether can those photographs see, this is how I used to, during those days, there used to be slide shows. So we used to carry the slides, projector and everything, then talk with people with your pictures. Different exhibitions. This is a snake exhibition on different pit vipers where school students and others, they come. So that's how your photograph matters when it starts interacting with the audience in a. That was education and awareness. I have a lot of pictures, but I'm not showing you too many pictures. But you can always use platform. You can always have in the studio itself, you can have exhibition of your photos if they're giving some message or if they're telling some stories. So you can interact with people with your photos. Can you hear me? It's saying this.
There's a break in between, but
Okay.
then it gets better.
Better now, so everybody can see me.
Yeah.
Okay. The second part, you can always think about having a theme of observing and monitoring into nature. Like butterflies mud puddle, they sit on the mud and take the salts from the mud. So you can always do any kind of this photography where you observe different animal species and their behavior, or monitor what they do all around. This is a lip rolling spider with a egg case which it carries with him, to protect the egg. These are the giraffe weevils. Because of their long neck, they are called giraffe weevils. They are mating. So this kind of lot of things happening in nature, you can always observe and monitor through your photography. Or you can look at more, getting it like from larva to adult butterfly. This is, they have metamorphosis. So you can show different kind of metamorphosis through your pictures. This is a color sergeant larva. It looks like some alien out of the bird, So this is a full larva. Like you have a impact on people who are watching them. Ultimately, it's all about saving the species on Earth. Now, social impact is quite huge of a photograph. I have done some work on snakes of Arunachal Pradesh. So this was a project done around 15 years back, around 2006, where I was exploring an area in Arunachal to find one particular snake, which is called Barta in that particular community. So it ultimately turns out to be a new first report for India called Kolbakis pit viper. But when I went there first time and I stayed with these local tribals there, that time I have taken a pictures. And the next time I went there, I carried those prints with me and I gave it to those. So I can tell you the support of the tribals to me in the second tour was much, much better, because those photographs have created a lot of support for me. When they see themselves, their own pictures and what I have done in the earlier trip, they started supporting me more. So a single photograph can impact you by creating different relationships with different people all around. Exhibition is the best part. It's 1 minute. I'm just switching. Hopefully it will not trouble now, I think, because I stopped my video. So exhibitions is another part. Because of COVID, it's a little bit at the moment challenging to have exhibitions. But till they were happening, exhibition was the best, kind of interactions you can have with the society as such, with your pictures, to create a lot of impact on ground, particularly with children's and even the people. Like I had done this my exhibition at Jahangir with my pictures, and I can tell you one story of one old gentleman. Old means I'm not talking about old as a age, but a senior gentleman came and asked me, "Are you the photographer?" And when I said yes, that person just hugged me there at Jahangir Art Gallery in the hall. And I just couldn't understand what's happening. And he told me later that because of my exhibition, he knows now that how beautiful India is. That kind of response you get from society makes you more humble as a photographer, and that as a research. If you are into research, you are with people who are doing wildlife research, you can always use photography as a documenting the research part of it. This is a Kolbakis Spitpiper, which I reported first time in India from Arunachal Pradesh. There is a publication out of it, the same boat and my studies. Then my images have been used in a lot of other publications and documentation, the Field Guide of Snakes of India and other places where you can send your pictures sometimes to use into publication. These are Siberian cranes. And that was the last year this one pair come to India. After that, they have become locally extinct. You can't see Siberian cranes in India anymore after 2002. So probably this was the last picture of these birds from India. After that, it got locally extinct in India. It never comes as a migratory bird to India anymore. But this picture shows the history, shows the documents that this species was some years back used to be found in India. And probably because of all human interference, it has stopped coming here. Another threatened species of India of cranes is black-neck cranes, which only breeds in Ladakh into Tibetan plateaus. So all those documenting it and everything matters a lot, because you never know what impacts what species and when it gets locally extinct. But by studying and photographing them, you understand that you need to save these animals and you need to create impact. Just 1 minute. I am getting phone calls to take care of my net more. 1 minute. Yeah, now is it okay? Much better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. So that was black-neck crane, which is very threatened because of habitat destruction happening in Changthang and Ladakh, which are their breeding grounds. This is another documentation of a only lizard found above 15,000 feet. The blue lake, which you can see, is the same Three Idiot lake, not the same Pangong, but another lake called Somoriri in Ladakh. So this lizard is called snow lizard, and this is the only reptile found above 15,000 feet. Another than documenting, you can always use photography as a citizen science. So this is a fan-throated lizard found around Satara, only a very endemic to a region of that particular region. So one is that taking a beautiful picture of it, but second is also about documenting its life. There is hundreds of windmill all around. So documenting the relation of this particular species in that area and those windmills is very, very important and crucial, because what happens, due to these windmills, the raptors don't come there. And raptors generally feed on these lizards. And because there is a more safety now because of windmills, the lizard behavior has changed, their adaptation has changed. They are more healthy into the areas where the raptors are not there, because they don't have to run from predators anymore. So that's how many times the behavior and adaptation changes in animals, maybe because of human interference or a change into habitat patterns. Documenting them as a citizen also matters. You must have seen a lot of crocs pictures, but this is a crocodiles just beside the Mahad city in a Savitri river. You can see all the west of the city all lying around, and they kind of live around there and kind of thrive there. Actually, they feed on this solid waste management. So documenting all these things is a part of citizen science projects which you can undertake around your areas or the areas which you want to document. See, this is one of the these are demoiselle cranes, which are migratory birds, come to India every winter. So documenting their beauty is one part, but also the disturbance. Now these are the local tourists, going there and trying to imitate these cranes by disturbing them and taking close-up pictures through them, and that's how we start disturbing wildlife. So documenting all these practices also matters when it comes to citizen science. Another aspect of citizen science is that you see when you travel all around, you see a lot of road kills of animals. We drive so fast into the forest areas that many times a wild animal comes and die under your wheels. So the request to anybody is to slow down into a wilderness areas or a forest areas where there are roads around, so you don't kill the animals when you are driving. See, it's not only the big animals, even butterflies also die under the truck's wheels. And then we reach to the major reason which we all do wildlife photography is appreciating beauty. But this beauty also creates a lot of empathy into a viewer's mind about the nature. And that's how the impact starts first. When you get emotionally connected to something, you start saving it. So to make society emotionally connect to that beauty of nature, a beautiful photograph from nature always matters and creates a big positive impact. And again, if you can tell a story, this is a poison dart frog from Costa Rica in South America. It's also called blue jeans frog, because of the legs, it looks like blue colored jeans. It secretes a poison from its skin, and in old historical days, the tribes used to remove that poison and put it on their arrows to hunt animals. There are a lot of wildflowers all around us, so you can always show the beauty of wildflowers. And to have wildflowers, we need a lot of wild habitats. You cannot just cultivate these flowers into your gardens. Like I do a lot of Ladakh in winter, so there is a frozen lakes all around there in winter. The temperature goes to minus 40s and 50s, and still people stay all around there. So showing beauty of those extreme environments also matters to save those. They know normal jungles. So beauty is always there, but it always have a positive impact, as I'm telling you. Today, the coral reefs we are losing into our seas. So having a beautiful picture of a clownfish with this magnificent anemone always creates that love for oceans, and love for oceans will create somewhere the conservation for oceans. These are Tibetan wild asses into again, this is the roof of the world. So you go to Ladakh and you do a lot of, adventures, but you hardly document the habitat and wildlife all around there. Snakes, creating snake awareness I'm doing for last 3 years. So you'll see a lot of snake pictures into my portfolios. So this is a python, Indian rock python. It's rocky habitat of Koina Wildlife Sanctuary. Again, corals with this fish. So, there are a lot of beauties all around, and if you have to save them, conserve them, you have to save habitats, you have to oppose big dam and hydroelectric projects which are going to spoil these pristine environments of India. Or in case port constructions happening all around the shores, where our fish, our turtles, they all will lose their life too. So you have to select your cause and start photographing for that cause.
Kedar, Vikram here. I had one question. Can you just go back to your previous slide?
This one?
Yeah. So this is so beautiful. So when you're shooting this, what goes in your mind?
I mean, how does it feel?
So
see, many times, as a photographer, when you are in a particular place, this kind of images doesn't happen on a fluke. You understand what is kind of topography you are in, and then you wait for that particular moment. Now
Okay.
I was around this lake for a whole day and I was trying to shoot, but I wanted this specific sun rays on the cliff, So I pre-visualized my photograph and waited for sun to reach there for 3 hours.
Okay.
So many times to create a picture, you have to pre-visualize what you want to shoot and have a patience to wait for it. One is a travel photography where you shoot whatever you see, and the other is you understand all elements all around you, and you know that at a particular time what will happen and where. So I shoot a sun a lot. I love shooting sun, So I always keep looking at the position of a sun and how I can incorporate sun into a particular frame. So this image happened because I knew that sun has to sunset on that side. And I know that when it comes to that cliff on the border, I can create this kind of sun rays through a very small aperture. So as a photographer, you always try to pre-visualize what you want to shoot and work towards it. In the end, you may get it, you may not get it. Now, in this particular moment, if there would have been a lot of clouds in that side, I would have lost this frame. But I waited, and sometimes, God bless you with a moment. So this is that kind of moment, Vikram.
Right. Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, once you do your pictures, as we are talking about what you can do, you can always start interacting with people all around you or different communities or different groups with your pictures. That's how you create positive impact on ground. Sharing it on Instagram and share it on a Facebook is good for you, showing your pictures all around, but it may not have a longer run, provided you select a particular groups on Instagram or a Facebook groups where you put your pictures and start interacting around it about the problems it's facing of that habitat or anything, challenges happening in those particular areas, or just discussion on the beauty of the nature, then you might have a positive impact. But just leaving it there and thinking that society or people will interact with it on its own may not happen, So you have to actively seek where you can interact with your pictures, on which groups, on which pages, on which platforms. But again, it's not a very kind of a difficult job to do, It doesn't mean that having an impact, you need to change the world, okay? You can educate, communicate, or just engage with people with your pictures. You can trigger happiness, empathy, or a sorrow, depending on what is your objective to have that particular emotion into a viewer's eyes or a heart. You can always create different impressions, arts, or documentation where after 50 years, 100 years, more than generations, those pictures can be a record of something which people will lose after so many years, Like those Siberian crane pictures which I have. Now, nobody in India, photographer, can go and shoot a Siberian crane. So that's kind of a picture you have because you went out there, you made efforts to have that picture, So after 20 years, 30 years, you may have the picture which nobody else can have. So that can also be another form of documentation called museum documentation. There are multiple ways you can carry your images beyond your cameras and hard drives. And my suggestion, start doing it, start interacting with your images with the people. One is a beauty. I understand you look at rule of compositions, how beautiful picture is. But second is what stories it's telling. Is it telling stories and creating emotions in viewer's mind? So I always say that take your photos beyond your camera, It's an art which need to be appreciated. That is the foremost thing. It's a story need to be told. It's a history to be documented. It's an information to be communicated. It's a dream to be shared. Like that sunset, it was my kind of a pre-visualization dream to get that moment. So you have to share your dreams with others through your photography too. That can be also a beyond camera moment. It's a time capsule and needs to be preserved, I always remember that Amol Palekar songs, कि पल वापस नहीं आने वाला है. So you have to record that pal with your photography. Thank you guys.